Hey folks, welcome back. So as I promised, we were actually going to talk in depth about the master chain today. First thing I want to say right off the bat, the master chain does not make the mix sound good. Okay? Your mix should already be good, or at least be getting there. Okay? I already understand that I'm not a professional mixer. I'm always learning and always getting better. And as I get it better, I actually use the master chain less and less. And I do more of the work in the mix. So please, right off the bat, understand the master chain is not going to make your mix sound sweet if your mix sucks. Okay? I use my master chain a lot more for things like adding a specific sound that I want, which I'll show you, with either like the tape machine or with these PuigTecs, these vintage type sound that I like, adding a bit more subharmonic stuff. And I think I have just one specific parametric EQ cut that I've done here. But anyway, I'll show this all to you. Okay, first thing that I'll do is I will use a virtual tape machine from Slate. This is exactly what it is. If you don't know what it does, it just adds a little bit of noise and basically distortion. Noise here, like I said, and bass. You can do everything you want with a tape saturator. Give it like the old analog type sound. It helps with a little bit of harshness. Excuse me, a little bit of harshness, as I showed previously, actually with the Pro Channel tape emulator right here for the guitars. I just like the way it sounds, and I add that in. I suppose I could try and A/B this to see if it'll come through on YouTube. Let's just go with the epic part, okay? This might be a little loud, so check your speakers, okay? So we're gonna start. So in my opinion, that was pretty clear, what the virtual tape was actually doing. The mix is rather bright and harsh without it, in my opinion. That might also have something to do with these next plugins I'll show you. But after that, I always move in to this always use this plugin. And actually on my free mastering chain tutorial, I showed you a similar plugin from Ignite Amps that they modeled their own version of this. Well, this is the Waves version, the Jack Joseph Puig collection. So it's a PuigTec, a PuigTec style, where you can boost and cut in the exact same frequency range, in my case at 60. What I like to do is I like to introduce some low end to help the kick and the bass. I like to introduce low end into the mix with a very sharp bandwidth. And then here's really where the magic happens. Around 8K, 8, 12, 10K region, you can add some excitement to the top end. I really love doing this. And so let's go ahead and A/B it really quick. I'll be A/Bing it from up here this time. So check your ears again. So you see, it's doing a lot more work to the low end of the song and just making the high end just a tad more clear, a tad more bright. Now, this is for basically low end and high end. Now, they have the sister plugin to this would be the mid-range equalizer, the MEQ5, which I use specifically to do a mid-range dip, usually around 300 or 200 depending. It really depends, but I don't use this plugin all the time. But I have started to use it more often with my mixes. Let's go ahead and A/B. So it's quite subtle. I'm not doing too crazy of a cut. You heard a drastic difference when I went to 4 dB rather than 2 dB, but it is there and it does help. After that, I always use an SSL comp. This is basically for, as they like to say in the industry, quote, gluing the mix together. I just like to use this because it's running it through the SSL algorithm, which gives it that nice SSL sound. And all I ever care to do is I literally just make this needle move like this much. That's all I'm ever trying to do. You can go between a takt time of 10 or 30 milliseconds, whatever sounds better. If you have slower music, 30 milliseconds probably be good for you, but 10 seems to work well for me most of the time because of double bass and blast beats and so on with an auto release here. So let's go ahead and A-B this. So you just hear it's adding a little bit of thickness and glue to the mix. Now this plugin, I usually will either use the C4 or the Ling Multiband, which I'll show you here in a second. Sometimes if I'm really chugging, really going crazy, I will do some more cutting, not cutting, but I'll try to catch more of the lower mid-range of the guitars. It's really subtle with this particular mix. What I was doing there is I was trying to understand what was too much and just enough. So it was actually too much in the beginning, and you didn't hear any of the thickness or the breadth of the guitar. I pulled it back a little bit, and the guitars have their chunkiness again. You have to be careful with this because you can really shallow and thin out your mix. MaxxBass, it's just a subharmonic. Add subharmonics. So if you got really small speakers like laptop speakers, it'll push the bass into the higher frequency range, which is what this yellow thing is doing. The original bass, I have it set up like this, and then the crossover around 70, which is where my bass is split at. And it just does some subharmonic stuff in the higher frequencies so that you'll be able to hear the bass with smaller speakers. That's all it really does. It doesn't actually make the bass louder. It just enhances it a little bit. Let's go ahead and listen to this. Very subtle. Okay. Next, you always are going to have an EQ or that you're going to need to do. And in my case, it's typically the guitars. I'm always having to mess around with the guitars in the 200 to 300 range, as I've talked about in this series. I think it's usually like 250-ish, that area. And you want to just pull out just enough for taste with not too much of a narrow Q, but not very wide either. I think with this one, I'm always using, I think, 125-ish, something like that. And I will pull down until the boxiness or just what I don't like goes away. So let's do that right now, actually. That is night and day difference with when it is not being EQ'd. It's very boxy. You can hear all that cardboard sound. And when I go ahead and cut just a little bit of it, it opens up a little and it's not nearly as nasty to listen to. That pretty much covers it actually for the chain. Now I have the PAZ Analyzer here just to see where I'm at. I like to use it. You don't have to use it. It does nothing for the sound in the master chain, just analyzing the signal. I do like to use a clipper on my chain, just to raise the gain a little bit, saturate things a tad. This is before the limiter, which we'll talk about. Now, after that, I use what's called linear multiband compression a little bit. Again, I'll excite this area of the highs a tiny bit, like I've done here, 0.5, and I'll pull down here just a little tiny bit in the lower mids, and that's usually it. Now, how I set this up is I will play the song. I'll check out these automatic meters that come up with linear multiband, and then I'll typically just put them up here, and it'll do, automatic compression, and it tightens things up a little bit. Now, as we see here, I've been messing with the settings already, so these don't match anymore. So what I'll do now is I'll play the song, I'll set the levels again, and then we will cut to that point so you don't have to listen to a whole 6-minute song just for one little A-B session. So I'll be right back. And we're back. So I played the whole song through, and I just let the program or the plugin understand what the basic levels were of each part of the crossover band, and then I set the threshold up here. It just tightens it up each band a little bit. I don't know if we're going to be able to hear it in the YouTube video, but let's give it a listen. I think that was a pretty clear difference of what I'm doing. Again, even I thought the 1 dB cut was a little bit much, so I put 0.5. But that's how I use the linear phase multiband. Fantastic plugin. You could use the Sonar version that comes with the program if you wanted. That's fine. I paid for this one before those plugins were released, so this is the one I use. Now, finally, after all is said and done, we come up to limiting. So at this point in time, I want to point your attention to the top of my mix bus, which is -12, which is gain station the entire thing so that I can hit my limiter at a proper volume. So I'm using the Slate FGX, finally. Forgot about it, actually. I was actually using the L3, which is not a very good limiter to use. But I'm going to play the song without the limiter so you can understand what we had before we go into limiting. Okay, so that should already tell you that the mix needs to be pretty good, or needs to be how you want it, before you limit it. Because the limiter will crush it a little bit and change the dynamics of the song just a tad. And that's why a lot of people now are doing top-down mixing, where they have the limiter always enabled, because the things change a little bit. So let's hear now what it sounds like with the limiter enabled. Let's go ahead. So basically, this here is just compression. It's disabled. I'm not using it. Don't want it. We're looking here at FG level, and we're basically looking for RMS. I always like to do RMS to -10. I don't really like crushing the hell out of my mixes unless a client specifically demands it, because it sounds bad. But -10 RMS, I'm usually all right with. So let's see where we are. that sounds perfectly acceptable. In the beginning, it was like -7 RMS, and you could definitely hear how things were really being crushed, especially on the kick and the snare. The drums are usually very distorted once you start crushing the hell out of it. So I don't like to crush my mix very much. Anyway, guys, that is all you need to know about my mastering chain. And the next thing you need to know is forget everything I just told you. Find your own way of doing it. In the master chain, really all you need is a multiband, some EQ, a clipper if you want to use one, and a limiter. You should not be doing huge, drastic EQ moves that change the entire sonic quality of your mix. I know you're saying, well, Scott, you used the PuigTec to do. I'm just enhancing what I had already EQ'd for. And plus, this is an analog particular sound that I like to get. You don't have to use this at all. You could just use FabFilter if you wanted, if you don't want to affect your sound at all. So this is just how I do it to get the sound that I like. Okay, so it's very subjective. But anyway, I promised I'd show you my master chain, so I've shown it to you. And this basically concludes the entire mixing series here of the song from start to finish. I really hope it was cool for you guys. I really hope you learned something. And if you have any questions or criticisms, what I could do better next time, or what was awesome, what sucked, as long as you're being respectful and you're giving your opinion in a respectful manner, I'm perfectly okay with criticism. If you're just gonna write something retarded in the comments, I'm gonna delete and block you because I don't have any time for that nonsense on my channel. So thank you very much for checking out all these videos. I had a pleasure doing it, and I truly honestly hope it helped you out in some way. And I'm hoping that you guys are going to be able to make some great mixes for yourself now. So if you thought the series was cool, helpful, yada yada, consider a like rating and even subscribing. And if you subscribe, make sure you hit that bell notification so you can get an email the next time I upload a video. All right? Thanks a lot, guys. Honestly, I really do appreciate it. Have a good one.